I stole a loaf of bread. My sister's child was close to death, and we were starving.
And you will starve again unless you learn the meaning of the law.
I've learned the meaning of those 19 years, a slave of the law.
5 years for what you did, the rest because you tried to run. Yes, 24601.
My name is Jean Valjean.
And I'm Javert. Do not forget my name. Do not forget me, 24601.
Les Miserables.
You're listening to Writing Roots, brought to you by Aspen House Publishing.
Welcome to Writing Roots. I'm Lee Hole.
And I'm Lee Esses.
Our magical word of the day is the number 6.
The number 6 has a lot of different connotations and a lot of different ways that you can use it. We aren't going to lean into the almost good, the evil connotations that we talked about last episode. One of the other things that you see the number 6 happen with in like a weirdly common way is you see it as a replacement for names.
And obviously there are other numbers used in the place of names, but 6 is weirdly common. You have Sierra 6 in The Gray Man or number 6 in The Prisoner.
It's actually the name of the trope in TV tropes. If you look up "You Are Number 6", the whole thing breaks down a lot of what we're discussing today.
Now, if you just flip the 6 upside down, it's also the number 9. You even have an entire movie just named 9.
In Star Trek, you have 7 of 9 as one of the characters there. And you'll also see this usage of making a character feel anonymous with Agent 47 in Hitman, which was a movie in 2007.
So, unlike with our opener quote, where you have Prisoner 24601, in using the number 6, the number that's that small, you have this anonymity attached to it. You're still a number instead of a person, but it's much less dehumanizing. It's considered more important because you are a small number. It's assumed that you are one of a small set of people instead of one of thousands.
You'll also see this in more recent connotations when you're talking about naming places, especially planets. We would be Sol 3 because we are the third planet from the star Sol. Or in Marvel's multiverse, you have a designation of which Doctor Strange we're talking about. This is Doctor Strange from Universe 616.
And then, I'm not quite sure why, but apparently the members of the band Slipknot use numbers for their stage names and designations instead of names.
So if you haven't been able to tell, today's episode is about more than just the number 6. This is the name of the trope, but we are talking about basically any usage of a number replacing a name for your characters.
One of the more common places that you will find this trope used, a number in place of a character name, is in dystopian fiction, where, in general, the societies have broken down to a point where the people in control don't want the people beneath them to have individual identities. So the best way to do that is to just give them numbers.
The more surface level logic of this is they don't want to have 2 Lee Holes in the population. So we're naming this one Lee Hole 1, we're naming this one Lee Hole 2. You know what? Let's just call them 1 and 2.
You'll also see this in dystopian fiction used to distinguish one of a set. And so there is a group of people who are designed to do a specific job. So they will be named, like in Star Trek, 7 of 9.
And that's the Borg doing this. A lot of the Borg's process is to take something that was organic and natural and human or humanoid and make it into a machine. This taking away of the name and replacing it with a number helps with that. You will also see in this dystopian type storytelling the powers that be dehumanizing someone by giving them a number instead of their name. Like in our opener quote, he says, "My name is Jean Valjean. That's nice. I get a name. You still get a number."
In Spirited Away, when Chihiro makes the deal to work at the inn, she gives away her name and she is then given the name Sen, meaning 1,000. And then the other example that comes to mind for me today is V for Vendetta, where V's name actually came from, in the movie at least, the number on the door of his prison was a 5. So now he's just known as V because it's the Roman numeral for 5.
In a somewhat less malicious way, you will often also see android-type characters given a number instead of a name. This is a way to separate humanity from the androids, especially in stories like iRobot, where you've got this distinction that's being made between the two. Naming that android a number instead of a word can help keep the classes separate.
I think one of the common places to see this is in the Star Wars universe. You have a bunch of the droids that are just named with their sequence number. So you have R2-D2, you have C3PO. One of the only ones I know of that has a full name is Chopper, but if I remember right, even that's derived from his sequence number.
And in the more recent trilogy, you had Finn, who was a stormtrooper and given a number, and then that got changed into a name. So that is how characters who are coming out of this type of circumstance reclaim some of their identity, is they get a name instead of just a number.
Or, become known as the universe's greatest war killer by murdering thousands as an android. Chopper is vicious.
So when you have an android character that you are trying to make feel wholesome, you want us to like them in some way, phonetically spelling out their designation instead of writing the physical numbers for their name can help them feel kind of adorable. When we call R2 ARTOO instead of the letter R and the number 2, it feels more familiar. It feels like they're a pet instead of just a machine.
Now, one of the numbering systems for names that you probably will be most common with are your super spies. I think the one you'll identify first out of all this is Bond. James Bond, also known as 007.
And we did mention earlier Sierra 6. From the Gray Man series. That's what I'm reading right now, so that's part of what put this episode together. The super spies rely on these numbers and these designations, Sierra being the name of his group, his team, and then 6 being which one in the group. They rely on these numbers for one of their biggest defenses they have, and that is anonymity. If you don't know my name, you can't come after my pet dog.
So having something in front of it, particularly the zeros, can help add to the mystery and take away from the dehumanization of it. When you have something like 007, that just sounds spy-ish rather than just 7, which sounds a little more murdery. When you have Sierra 6, having the Sierra gives it an air of he's part of something bigger. He's part of a group that does a specific thing, compared to Prisoner 6, which is more dehumanizing. So whatever you add to the front of that, you just need to be intentional on what sort of impression you want it to give to the reader.
And if you wanted to toy with your readers a little bit and add a little more subtlety in there that may or may not just be fun, you can look up what these numbers mean in certain cultures in order to give a little extra flavor to who this character is. If you have the Sweet Sunshine Cinnamon Roll character named 4, which is the number for death because it sounds very similar to the number 4 in Chinese, if you give that character that name, it adds a whole new layer of context to what this character might be.
If you go naming something 666, in most European and American culture, that is going to be seen as evil.
And not just this is a bad dude, but evil with a capital E in a very biblical sense, because, Mark of the Beast.
So if you decide to give your characters names that are numbers, Really take a look at your intention behind it to help you develop which number would be right for them. It can be a fascinating way to distinguish them from the rest of the people or give them a little bit more anonymity in the overall story. Just do it with intention and purpose. And of course,
Write selfishly.
If you have a question or comment for our hosts or a topic you'd like us to cover, send us an email at writingroots@aspenhousepublishing.com or find us on Facebook by searching for Aspen House Publishing.